All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bearean Bunker, episode 68, Bible in a Year. And we are in that amazing drama, true story, book of Acts. And today we read Acts 14, 15, where it gets really dicey, and 16, where it's got some really excellent news. So in 14, what we have is mixed crowds believe amidst persecution. In 15, we have the Jerusalem Council rules on circumcision. Keep that in mind. And then later we have the letter to the scattered communities, the diaspora. Then later we have new teams strengthen communities. And then we have 16, going west to Macedonia, and salvation or rescue for the jailer's household in chapter 16. So there's a lot going on here. I'd love my lovely bride to go first on any observations she might have. And here you go.
Well, there was so much. By the time we got to the end of 16, I was having a hard time remembering what we read in 14, even though we had discussed a lot. Because how long have we been here? We've been here a long time.
Yeah.
So
our 10-minute Bible study on here is about an hour and a half of reading and enjoying.
Yes. So, yes, and we're blessed to have our daughter home, and so she came out and joined in the conversation too. So, but anyways, going back to 14, when we were trying to remember what we had discussed, was I had found it very interesting that the Priest of Zeus in chapter 14 was wanting to offer worship, sacrifices to Paul and Barnabas, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy. I was like, what? There's a priest of Zeus?
Right.
I didn't know there was a priest of Zeus. And that they were so impressed with them that they wanted to offer bulls. And then Paul and Barnabas were saying, or sacrifice, was it bulls?
Yeah, there was sacrifice.
Yeah. And they were like, no. But they were so happy with them, or so impressed that they really did want to offer sacrifices to them.
Yeah.
So that was just a very interesting thing and enlightening, because I just didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, and that was so cool that you jammed on that, because I kind of skated over.
Yeah, and I was
You ever notice, like, if you study the Bible with somebody, you guys see different things. I literally just read through that, and Rachel's like, "Hey, what was that all about?" And I almost like looked at her like, I don't know, whatever, Zeus stuff, you know. And so we ended up picking it apart a little bit, and I got tons more out of it, because we, stopped the truck and took a look.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun.
So nothing super. It was enlightening to me.
Right.
So you can.
Any observation in 15 that you thought was interesting?
Was that about the circumcision?
Yeah, the council and.
Yeah, well, I guess that's
arguments.
where our daughter came in too, because she was saying, well, don't they have to be circumcised at birth? And that was for the Jewish people, but people that had been converted were adults, and so like to let them into the temple, they had to be circumcised.
Right.
So that's kind of a big deal.
It was a huge
So it's
deal.
like a grown man wants to come into the temple, and he has to be circumcised first.
Right on.
So that was the thing. I was like, what? We didn't. What? So this is one of those mornings. I'm gonna stop with that. Is that my sound for the morning?
If you're going through the book of Acts, there's a lot of what? Yeah, because there's a lot going on here. Like I said before, the book of Acts plays out like the best epic journey. I mean, Lord of the Rings is Dora the Explorer compared to the book of Acts. People are getting stoned to death. People are, sacrificing, people are raising people from the dead for real. There is an epic journey to share the truth, and there's an epic enemy that is trying to quell the truth. Coming from the Judaic tradition, coming from the pagan tradition, coming from all kinds of different ways. I mean, these guys are being attacked, and all they have is the narrow road of the path of the light and the truth. And these guys are going out there, and that's it.
I'm just grabbing some coffee.
Right on. All right, so my observation, okay, we're at 5 minutes. My observation, of course, is Acts 15, because in my circles, or, other circles, Christian circles and things, they love to talk about Acts 15 and the Jerusalem Council, and how they, focus on verse 15:10. Why then do you put God to the test by putting the yoke on the neck of the da 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 da? So they're basically saying that God's loving instructions are a yoke. Even though Psalm 119 says they are light, Jesus said they are light, he said they are love. Any loving father gives his household a norm to follow. Law means norm. Instructions, it just means norms. So you teach norms. But so they weld this yoke to God's instructions. So that's not what was happening. Well, it's what's happening in the Judaic community, absolutely. Plates and cups and saucers and everything. Sorry. So I go down rabbit trails, I'm sorry. So anyway, the point was, the argument was on circumcision. The Gentiles, like we just talked, had to be circumcised before they could come into the temple, before they could be quote unquote saved. And the emissaries, Paul and Barnabas and Peter and them guys, said no. And so they were having a discussion about, well, they can't just be these crazy pagans, because what they were doing was they were having sex with temple prostitutes. They were eating strangled stuff, drinking blood, all these things, which is part of pagan temple worship. And they were wanting to come in now to Yahweh temple worship. So then what they settled down on was, look, you guys, if you just say, if you just simply abstain from things offered to idols, from blood, drinking blood, because that's where they got the power of the blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality, temple prostitutes, it's part of a worship service, then, come on in. And so Acts 15:20, they like to stop, and they say, well, just abstain from this stuff. So then you're like, people are like, oh, well, I don't do any of this stuff. And then, but if you say, well, okay, so where do you, verse 21. For Moses from ancient generations has had in every city those who proclaim him, since he is read in all the synagogues every Shabbat. So it's kind of like if you become a Baptist, they have a specific set of kind of basics before you can come, join the church. They don't want you to be perfect, but they need you to cut out some of the really rough stuff, and then you da-da-da-da-da. The same thing to go to temple and to have that walk of faith, because you're saved by faith, okay? Saved by grace in the Lord Yeshua in verse 11. But then they want to learn how to walk that faith, okay? Well, they're saying, come to temple, and you'll be coming to temple every Shabbat, and you'll learn more from Moses, all right? So that's Acts 15. In a nutshell, people have complicated it and welded it to something that doesn't exist in scriptures. But basically, they were arguing about circumcision, and they're like, no, we're not making these guys get circumcised. But I see what you're saying about the sexual immorality, drinking blood, and all this other stuff. That is blatantly pagan. From Zeus, from 14, the Priest of Zeus. That's what he would have been doing. And then in Acts 16, of course, just a really excellent chapter on going to jail and the angels coming and shaking the thing loose, and the jailer, blown away by this miraculous action and saying, what must I do? He walked in there and he goes, he called for the lights and rushed in, trembling with fear. He fell down before Paul and Silas. And after that, he brought them out and he said, sirs, what is necessary for me to be doing so that I will have been rescued? And they said, hold faithful upon Adonai Yeshua, and you will be rescued, you and your household. And they spoke the word of Yahweh to him together, who all were in his house. So they explained the promise of Yeshua and all this stuff. And he began his faith walk. Okay? And there was one other thing that was really, I loved. Oh, the separation. Paul and Barnabas split up. And some people say, whatever, Barnabas, da-da-da-da-da. I don't think it was any problem. They knew the covenant. They knew what Yeshua had done. He came to ratify the blood covenant of Abraham in Genesis 12 that was broken in Exodus 20. And Jesus bringing back the lost sheep of Israel. That was his promise, and that's what he succeeded. So after some days, Paul said to Barnabas, let's return and visit the brothers and sisters in every city where we proclaim the word, and let's see how they are. Barnabas was planning to take John, called Mark, and Paul says, nah, because Mark bombed it in one of these other towns. So Paul didn't want him. And a sharp disagreement took place, so they split off. Barnabas took Mark, and Paul took Silas. So bottom line is, these two leaders, and I think it was probably better anyways, because they're both strong leaders in the Word of God, and then they covered twice the stuff. So we don't hear what Barnabas was up to. Probably beautiful, awesome things, powerful in the face of danger and evil, and we read what Paul did. It's 11:20. I've gone long again. Any thoughts? Come on.
No.
Okay.
No, I think you covered it.
It's so hard to cover this stuff in such a short amount of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So what do we got going today?
Well, I'm just waiting. My Parmesan cheese is all done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's drying, and then I found a good humidity container, and I'm going to move it out to the cheese cave, and then I'm running errands today.
Running errands.
Yeah, I know. I got to go into town and do banking and groceries and house supplies and stuff like that. That's what I'm doing. How about you?
I am putting lights on a house and some touch-up stuff and cleaning up and finishing up a project that I was on.
What a beautiful day to do it. It's supposed to be really nice today.
Yeah, it is gorgeous out here. So.
And I'm excited for tonight, for Shabbat.
Yeah, Shabbat.
Got the popcorn popper ready and some dark chocolate.
Right.
Hang out with you.
Do you mind if I mention a question or a comment that was made to me that I can answer?
I do not.
Or do you think we should shut her up?
Well, you're at 12 minutes. Depends on how long you're going to go. I'll let you, you want me to cover it?
Hey everybody, this is 68. We just, or Bearean Bunker Broadcast 68. It went long and there was a couple questions, so I am putting a part 2 on Instagram. And if anybody's interested in hearing a question about what's a Hebrew scholar and what's a heretic. But I just didn't want to ditch out of there without saying goodbye, God bless, and we just thank you so much for joining us. So from our compound to yours, keep on crushing.
Bye.
Bye.